Hi, everyone, and welcome once again to Pickswise Playbook, week number 5. I am your host, Chris Rose, joined as always by our gambling expert, Jared Smith, and our 7-year NFL veteran offensive lineman, Ross Tucker. But, Ross, have you noticed the big news? Jared is moving on up. There's no more green screen. That looks like a real background, Jared. What'd you do to us?
It is. Well, we got the upgrade. We got a little Ted Lasso, believe, up here.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a really great story behind this picture, which we might not have time to get into, but maybe offline we can. Just showing a little bit of my sports culture, kind of the things that inspire me, just like the Jets did on Sunday.
We'll get to that, too. Ross, are you inspired by Jared's new look?
I like it better than the green screen for sure. It's much better, much preferable. I like the believe sign. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to figure out, Chris, I get the Browns thing behind you. It's like a Brown, is it Jim Brown jersey? But is that a Colts jersey or Bills?
Peyton Manning, right?
Yeah, it's Peyton Manning. I was supposed to be the Manning cousin on the alternate ESPN2 broadcast on Monday. So I'm kind of using this as my resume reel. So you guys have to be really, really funny today, or I'm going to be left behind.
Got it.
Thank you. Once again, our whole goal is to make you some serious dough, make you a smarter, wiser, better out there. We're going to break things down by the numbers. Jared really, is an expert in that area. Ross allegedly played the game, so he's going to take you down into the trenches, mix it up, talk about storylines and how that can affect your betting. And, we're going to check in on some futures, how we're doing in that area. And I also am going to really quickly check the records from last week. Jared, you were outstanding, and Ross, thank you for participating.
Yeah.
No comment on my end, because the second I start bragging, that's when the record goes south. So thank you.
Well, if you've noticed, that's why I'm not wearing a Pickswise clothing today. I didn't think that they would want me to.
Mojo. He's superstitious.
First of all, I got to change it up. Secondly, I didn't think Pickswise would want me to be repping them today after how last week went. You have 5 awesome teaser legs, and then the Saints are up 21-10, and they lose in the fourth quarter. The Titans are up 9-0, and they keep settling for field goals when they get in the red zone. They lose in overtime as well. And the Detroit Lions have first and goal 3 times in the first quarter and get 0 points. And then even after that, they're down 10 with 4 minutes left, and it's 4th and 2. They could kick a field goal, because you used to be teammates with Dan Campbell, and he should know that you have the Lions plus 8.5 on a teaser leg. But no, they go for it, and I lose all 3 of those. Killed me.
Let it out. It's a safe space. It's a safe space. Gambling therapy at the start of the show. We should make it a weekly thing.
In addition to all the information you're going to get today, a quick reminder to please download the Pickswise app. You can get it at Google Play Store. It's also available on Apple, wherever you download. So let's go. Be a part of it. Be a part of our little gambling family here. And let's just dive right into it in week 5. We're going to cover all 3 primetime games, but let's start with the big one, the Sunday night, the AFC Championship rematch. Buffalo on the road yet again against Kansas City. Last year, they lost 38-24 in this one. Bills are getting about a field goal in this one. Ross is one of your former teams. And we know that Josh Allen has done his thing, but to me, the difference this year is the defense. Good enough to slow down. What? You really wanted to jump on me? What?
No, I didn't know. I thought you were done. I thought you said you had like a pregnant pause. You said the biggest difference is the defense.
Yes.
I thought, okay, it's my time to go. And then
I was so excited to share this with everybody. That they're the first team since that dominant defense of the 2000 Baltimore Ravens to pitch a pair of shutouts in their first 4 games. Now go.
I love it. Look, I know the way play-by-play guys and hosts are. They have their fun fact about every game, and they're going to get that in. One way or the other, they're getting that fun fact in. He put the time in to get that fun fact. It's getting on the show, and it did. Here's what I got to say about this game. A few things. Number 1, some places it's now Buffalo only getting 2.5.
Yeah.
So the money has been coming in for Buffalo. We can talk about this every week, but that's why the value is Jared's the look-ahead line guy. Jared look-ahead line Smith, so he'll get into that. But my point is, I'll be Ross early in the week, Tucker, okay? I'll be Ross early in the week when you have a line that you're like, I don't know about that. Get the Bills when they're getting the 3. And maybe you can shop around and still get them, but there's a big difference between 3 and 2.5, as we all know. But I'm with you, Chris. Every Tuesday on the Ross Tucker podcast, I do power rankings, right? Nobody cares. I think the Bills are probably the best team in football. It's the Bills or the Cardinals. They're awesome. I don't understand this line. I mean, the Chiefs struggle to cover spreads. The Chiefs defense is horrible right now. I mean, the worst in the NFL. The Bills are playing great. This game means a lot to the Bills after last year's AFC Championship game. And you are exactly right, Chris, with your fun fact of the game. Gregory Rousseau, AJ Epinesa, they're much better on defense than they have been. Really like the Bills getting the points. Obviously, if you can still find 3 somewhere, get it. 2.5 is a big difference, but still something that you should strongly consider.
Yeah, I saw 3 at Westgate. It's juiced to the -120. But I'm glad when the Ross Tucker power rankings align with my nerdy analytical rankings, because my rankings this week also have the Bills as the number 1 team in the NFL. They're first in net yards per play, which is kind of a statistic I like to cook up in my lab. It's taking your yards per play and your opponent yards per play, adding them together. And I think it's a good metric of kind of how you're moving it compared to how you're stopping other teams from moving it. Buffalo's first in that category, also first in net points per play. And that's a category that doesn't always align. Sometimes you move it really well, but fluky things prevent you from scoring, turnovers, penalties, etc. But Buffalo is first in both categories. And Ross is dead right. The analytics says the Chiefs 32nd in DVOA. They are the worst defense in the NFL, according to the analytics. You're getting 3 points if you can still find it with the better defense. You're getting the revenge narrative. To me, this is a spot that I would expect it to close under a field goal. The look-ahead line, I have to mention it, of course, I'm contractually obligated, was Buffalo +4. It has moved, obviously, off of that considerably since, through that key number of 3. Buffalo's a great spot this week. If it's under 2.5, tease it up to 8.5. Good spot there, too. You're getting the much better defense, and I don't see them getting blown out in this game because the back door will be open as long as Josh Allen can touch the ball.
You guys both talk about the defenses. The Bills, number 1 in points per game allowed, number 1 in yards per game allowed. Kansas City, second to last in both those categories. By the way, the net yards per play, you ran through that so quickly. I had no idea how he was doing the math on that, Jared, at all. I just want to tell you.
I have a spreadsheet. If you want, I can send you the link. I tweet it out every week. It's a great,
you know what?
It's a great metric. It really is. It really is.
No, but that's a great point. That's a great point, Chris. These analytics math guys, they just say it real fast, and we don't really care enough to check their work. We just kind of nod and we're like, okay, I believe them.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
hold on. I'll give you the math right here.
I know how to be an analytics guy. I know how to be a host. I know how to be the meathead former player. I can do all 3 roles on this show if you wanted me to.
Buffalo gaining 5.6 yards per play this season, allowing 4.0, which is the fewest in the league. That is a net of 1.6. They have the highest net. There's some teams in the negative. There's a lot of teams in the negative, actually. Chicago and Miami are the 2 worst in the league at -1.5. So it's kind of my way of – it's like my own little personal power rankings, I would say.
Okay, good. Yeah, you put those out, and nobody will watch them. Perfect.
Nope.
Let's move on to Packers and Bengals. And, Jared, I want to start with you here. Right again, this time the Bengals are a home dog, right around a field goal. Both teams are 3-1. You know, Aaron Rodgers, he was dead on after week 1 where they got blown out by the Saints. Everybody just relax, chill out, zen together. They ripped off 3 in a row. And in the meantime, the Bengals, it was a little clunky last Thursday night against the Jags, but they got it done, and now they're super excited about themselves, Jared.
I give them a pass for the first half of the first Thursday night game, really, for them this year. They outscored the Jags 24-7 in the second half. They got the win. They got the result. To me, that's the most important thing. With the Packers, it's injuries. Say what you want about Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams. You're not going to find a better duo maybe in the league other than Mahomes and Hill. But I think the injuries on the defensive side really are starting to add up. Jair Alexander, they cannot be without him long term. And if you're telling me that Jamar Chase and the weapons that, you know, Joe Burrow has at his disposal get 10 days off to prepare for a banged-up Packers defense, I would expect them to keep this game close. I would make them a very live dog in this spot. And to me, I think Green Bay has the edge at quarterback and nowhere else. And I know that's the great equalizer, but I feel like the Bengals have enough to win this game, and the public is hammering the Packers. Look, headline was 3. Hasn't moved an inch off of that. So I'm fading the public here. I'm fading Aaron Rodgers, and I think I'm getting the better defense. The Bengals defense has been really good this year, according to the numbers, and I'm catching points at home. I feel like it's a pretty solid play for me on Cincy.
I would lean Cincy as well. I think the best thing that Jared mentioned was Jair Alexander.
Yeah.
He is very important and impactful for the Packers defense. So that is significant loss, especially when you're going against Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd. I think I saw something where T. Higgins might be back this week too.
Like
so those are all major positives. The Bengals also got extra time to prepare. I'd probably challenge you on saying I don't think the Bengals have a better offensive line than the Packers. But I understand what your point was, that the roster's not that much better for the Packers than it is for the Bengals, other than the quarterback. And Joe Burrow's kind of bridging that gap a little bit. It's not a play for me, but I would lean to the Bengals getting the 3 for sure.
It's interesting because this is the first real challenge for the Bengals in terms of facing an elite quarterback, right? Okay, they beat opening day Kirk Cousins, who is solid. He's a middle-of-the-road quarterback at best. The next week, they end up losing to the combination of Dalton and Fields, right? Then they took care of Big Ben, but who isn't these days? And Trevor Lawrence arguably had his best game as a pro on the Thursday night, and they needed to squeeze out every ounce of energy just to upend them. The thing is that Aaron Rodgers can come in there and just be wicked. And I understand that the Bengals defense is playing great, and they're feeling good about themselves, and they're like, we're going to be 4-1 for the first time since 2018. This is one of these games where Aaron Rodgers knows he's going to have to be the best quarterback on the planet, perhaps, for his team to win. Jared, I see you're shaking your head. Are you
I was just looking
about yards per play, or is it something I said?
No, I was looking up the Bengals DVOA numbers just to confirm it. I mean, they're a top 10 unit. So I think Cincinnati, I don't think, is going to cower at the great big bad Aaron Rodgers coming in. They're going to be a very live underdog in this spot because I think for the first time they believe that they can win these games because they have a healthy Joe Burrow and because they have a really good offense and because I would imagine they feel like they have a really good advantage against this Packers defense. So I can't push back too hard on Aaron Rodgers being great and him winning this game. But if you're going to give me 3 points at home with the better defense and some really good weapons, I just have to take the value in this spot and just take the full 3. Now, if this starts to move to 2.5, 2, that's when I would be a little bit more hesitant to back the home dog.
All right, we got to move on. But Ross, where the hell did you disappear to? What
That was amazing. I don't even know if that's a real thing, but I was like a split second away from sneezing.
Wow.
So I had my tissue and I went like this to sneeze off camera.
Very nimble.
It prevented me from sneezing. Is that a thing? If you do like a real quick to the side, does that stop you from sneezing? That was crazy. Next time I have to sneeze, I'm going to do a quick like that. It's like the equilibrium prevented my sneeze. That was like some ninja stuff right there.
Wow.
This is a gambling show. This is not a physiology hour. I have no idea.
Dr. Phil over here.
I have no idea. But I was just happy because once you get that head tipping over, I thought for sure you were going. I thought your feet were going to end up in the sky. I really did. That was impressive. All right, let's move on. We got the Saints at the Washington football team. And you talk about 2 teams that are temperamental. Like, I don't know what I'm getting every Sunday with these squads. Saints are actually a road favorite right now. They, one Sunday they go up to Foxborough and they're kicking the crap out of Bill Belichick and Mac Jones and the Patriots. The next week, Daniel Jones marches all over them, throws for a career high, and they're losing in the return to the Dome. Ross, what am I seeing?
Well, they're going to be awesome this week. It's an odd week, Chris. It's week 5. So the Saints this year, on odd weeks, they come to play. On even weeks, they yak leads to teams like the Giants and lose in overtime, and I'm still not over it. But no, look, honestly, I know it's not just Jameis Winston. I know it's not. But I'm just telling you, this is like the curse of Jameis. Like, this is what happened. I swear, whatever team he's on, it's a weekly roller coaster. And his performance has kind of been up and down as well in these games. To me, I like Washington as a teaser leg, teasing them up above a touchdown. depending on where you're at, you can tease them up to 7.5 or 8.5. I think Washington keeps it close. The concern I have about Washington is the injuries. Brandon Sheriff, Logan Thomas. I mean, those are some of their best players, but I am showing some faith that in the home game, coming off a win, they'll at least be able to stay there with the Saints. So we talked about teasers last week. We'll talk. I think we talk about them later today, but they're a teaser leg for me. I understand why that Jared likes the Saints, though.
I'm worried about the Washington defense. Because that number, like they should not be giving up the amount of yards that they're giving up with those two guys up front, Sweat and Young. I don't know what's wrong, but they're 29th against the run DVOA, 28th overall. So they've got some issues to figure out defensively. So if there was a team that I think the Saints match up well with, is a team that has issues on defense. Because the Saints defense does not have any issues. They're a top 5 unit, and they've continued to play that way throughout the season. I don't know what happened in the last 7.5 minutes of that Giants game. And then they didn't touch the ball in overtime, which was fluky. But I don't know why. I can't explain that loss on Sunday. There's some things in the NFL it's random. 21-10 with 7.5 minutes left, and they ended up tying the game. Not only did they get the touchdown, they got the 2-point conversion and then the field goal to tie it. So that was a very unlike. I don't want to read too much into a 7.5 minute stretch for the Saints defense. So I'm gonna assume that they positively regress this week. They play better against Taylor Heineke, who is shown some spunk at times, but I would put him behind Daniel Jones's talent level for sure. And I think the Saints defense can lock down and really push their offense to a win. Jameis, good luck, volatile, I understand, but the fact that the Saints are favored in this game on the road, I think tells you that they're the better team.
By the way, I don't know. I haven't checked the over-under on the number of combined times Taylor Heineke and Jameis Winston will throw passes where you're going, what the hell are you doing? Because Heineke has become the brand new Jameis Winston. Yeah. Jameis has kind of cleaned it up a little bit.
No, they had back-to-back weeks. Jameis did it in New England where it was like Sean Payton was like, great job. Don't ever do that again. And then Heineke did it to Terry McLaurin this past week. Yep. They both had 2 crazy lucky touchdown passes.
One note on this game, and this Ross would have a better sense of this. The Saints going on bye next week, does their mindset change at all? Is it relaxed? Oh, we have a bye week next week. Like, what's the mindset there? Because I'm always fascinated into and out of bye weeks.
Yeah, the only thing that's important there is if Sean Payton says you get the whole week off if you win. That can change things.
Has that ever happened to you?
No, but we did get another day off if we won sometimes.
That's something.
And nowadays, some of these guys get the whole week off. I don't know if he would do that this early in the season, but that is a carrot they put out there sometimes.
The early bye week fascinates me because it's so soon. You don't need it yet, but you get it. And what's the mindset going into it, I think, is impactful.
By the way, guys, I checked our schedule. No buys. We are tough as nails. We're going the full 18 weeks this year. I don't care. You got it?
Let's go.
Okay, Captain Sneezologist, you good with that?
I'm ready.
Okay. I don't know who in the league office has horns. And by the way, I want to say this. I love the league office. But last year, week 5, the Giants were at Dallas. And that's the game where Dak Prescott had the horrible leg injury. So what do they schedule week 5 this year? The Giants at Dallas. Like, ugh. Come on. Now, the Cowboys are favored by 7. They are amongst the best teams in the league. Their defense has significantly improved. Is it possible, Jared, that this is a misstep with the Giants coming off their first win?
This game, so we haven't talked about reverse line movement yet significantly here on the show, but
what is that? First of all, clean that up. What does that mean?
Reverse line movement means everyone is betting one side, spread or total, and the line is moving in the other direction. A lot of times I dismiss it because it could be, just adjustments in the market over the course of the week. But when Dallas played so well and they're such a public team, is seeing this kind of reverse line movement to a key number from 8.5 last week now to 7. despite the fact that everyone's betting the Cowboys, it's going towards the Giants. That gives me raises a little red flag for me. Then I dived into some of the numbers. And when you look at the numbers, the Giants actually, again, the net yards per play number, call it what you want, but the Giants are positive and the Cowboys are flat this year. So Cowboys defense really is the reason why. They're giving up almost 7 yards per play defensively. And I know they've had some really impactful plays defensively. Trayvon Diggs has looked great. Micah Parsons, I think right now, is the defensive rookie of the year. He's playing all over the field. But they've still given up a lot of yards. And this Giants team, what did they just do? In New Orleans, tough spot. Daniel Jones threw for 400. And how about this? Here's the list of quarterbacks. Daniel Jones has a higher adjusted QBR than this season. Dak Prescott, Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen.
That
Daniel
settles
Jones
it,
is playing
Jared.
pretty well.
That settles it. He's better than all those guys.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is this year, Daniel Jones is playing fairly well, and I get to fade the public reverse line movement spot. I'll take the full 7 with the Giants. If I'm crazy, Ross can make fun of me next week if they get blown out.
I don't have a very good read on this game. I don't. Cowboys are playing at a really high level right now, their O-line, but I do kind of like what I've seen from the Giants last couple weeks. They got Saquon Barkley the ball in space. It's a crazy concept. He looks faster than anybody when he's out in the open field like that. It is breathtaking. Kadarius Toney looks like a stud in the open field. I thought it was a much better game plan by the Giants. They had more RPOs involved. And so I think if I had to play this game, I would take the Giants and the points. I think they'll be able to hang.
Agreed.
It's interesting. You know that the Dallas Cowboys are the only team in the NFL that's 4-0 against the spread this year?
Good. That's another one of those nuggets that we know Chris wanted to get in for sure.
But our producer, Jack, put that in the notes, so Chris doesn't get credit for that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Jack, I was going to give you credit on that one. Well, geez, Ross, you didn't even give me time. Jeez, man, you're unbelievable.
Hey, that's not that. My point is, Jared, that doesn't count as like something that Chris took the time to
Ross
look
is
up
keeping
himself,
track of
that he had to get in there.
Ross
that
is the nugget
doesn't
police.
count for the host, play-by-play guy, Nugget.
Nugget police.
You know what, Ross? If you weren't still like 6'5" and 260, I would come kick your ass. I would. Now, the problem is I can't find the town you live in, but I would find it somewhere.
Hershey, sweetest place on earth.
Oh, yeah, no, I know. I just can't get there. My compass doesn't work that well. All right, let's move on to the Broncos and the Steelers. So we're not 100% sure who's going to start at quarterback yet, but Teddy Bridgewater put in concussion protocol. We heard as of Wednesday's practice that he was feeling better. They're just still not certain. So we could see a Drew Lock sighting on the road at Pittsburgh, and the Steelers are a home favorite, but just barely here, Ross. So do you have a better feel for this game than the Giants-Cowboys or no?
Yeah, so I like the Broncos as a teaser leg, teasing them up to, depending on where you're looking, +7, +7.5. This is an interesting game. If Teddy Bridgewater, they believe on Thursday, he might have a chance to practice. Obviously, that makes a huge difference, whether it's Bridgewater or Locke out there. That's number one. Part of you thinks, okay, this is when the Steelers will come back, and they've just been so consistent over the years of not being a bad team that I can easily see being on the Steelers side and just saying, okay, they're laying 1 point. They're going to win the game. But I think that's about right. Like, that's where I'm at. I think the Steelers win a close game. So I think Jared might be just laying the point with Pittsburgh. I'm going to go ahead and tease the Broncos up. You could do both if you wanted. But I think it's a close game. I am showing faith in Tomlin, the Steelers' leadership, Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, and yes, even Big Ben, that they'll find a way to get this win. Because honestly, they have to. Like, they have to. Their season's like pretty much over if they lose this game.
Yeah, the AFC North is good. The Bengals are better. The Ravens and the Browns are good. And I don't think Pittsburgh can really lollygag anymore if they want any chance to make the playoffs, because you're not going to make the playoffs if you have the fourth best record in your division. The quarterback injuries is what got me away from this. I was kind of leaning into Pittsburgh for the same reasons Ross said. You can't see them losing again at home in a game where they would expect to have the edge on defense. The injuries for Denver really starting to concern me. You saw how bad they were trying to move the ball without those 2 starting guards on Sunday against the Ravens. I don't know if they're going to play this week. They might, but they're obviously banged up. And then the defensive injuries have been really prevalent so far. And I even saw Patrick Surtain also missed a little bit of time on. So they're really banged up defensively. They're banged up on offense. Now they got to go to Pittsburgh, who's obviously really pissed off after what happened, the last couple weeks. But still, they're not favored by more than a field goal, which means the books kind of view this as a toss-up game. It's the injuries to both Bridgewater, and I heard Roethlisberger's got a bit of a hip thing. I'm sure he'll play, but obviously it was at least worth mentioning in the injury report this week. That's what kind of backed me off of this game, because when you have this many injuries, quarterbacks, offensive line, secondaries, it's really hard to get a read on who's healthy and who's not. So I think this is probably a good pass, but I would agree that getting Denver's defense through 7, not a bad play there on a teaser leg.
2 final things about this game. One is, Jared, you lost major points by using the word lollygag. This is not the 1960s. Also, here's your stat for you, Ross. It's been 35 years since the Steelers have failed to score at least 20 points in 4 straight games. That could happen this week. Producer Jack did not give me that note. I researched it on my own. Boom.
Nice. And by your own, you mean the NFL Network research notes that they send
Absolutely.
you, and you read through that.
1,000%. So thank you, NFL Network research notes. What do you think? Do you think that hosts and play-by-play guys just start digging through?
No, I know that's how you get it. That's how I get my stuff. That counts. You're reading it. You're reading the
book of every result that ever happened.
No, that counts. That absolutely counts.
I get a half point.
They get a full point.
Okay. I wasn't lollygagging with that answer.
No,
Jared, by the way,
not.
you're going to get tossed off the show if you use that word again. I'm
Fair
sorry.
enough.
We're just going to make an executive decision.
That's okay.
All right.
I don't know if they could afford my replacement, though.
Stephon Gilmore.
You're getting paid for this?
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. First London game of the year. First London game. Jets and Falcons. Jared, go ahead and just before we even talk about the Jets getting points on the road, they're both on the road in London against the Falcons. Just go ahead and beam a little bit because we kind of raked you over the coals last week.
Yeah, definitely did. I just want to, before we start, has the Tucker, since we're going across the pond, has the Tucker embargo on betting the Jets been lifted? Because last week he said we're not allowed to bet them until he gives us the go-ahead. So I figured since we're doing some international trading this week across, the date line, maybe we can get the embargo lifted, Ross. Is that okay? Can we bet on the Jets again this week?
No, because I bet against them and they screwed me. So now I hate the Jets even more. You can't bet on them. You can't bet against them. The Jets are costing me a lot of money this season so far.
Well, we're going to try to get you back on track this week. If you can find 3 in the hook still, I would absolutely recommend to play on the Jets. How can you lay points with this Falcons team after what we saw on Sunday? No. I would assume Zach Wilson will have similar success. He's going to be very volatile this year, and there are going to be games where we do bet on him and take points, and he throws 4 picks, and there was a couple throws on Sunday where the one pick he threw, the receiver went in, and the corner was just sitting right there on the out, and it's very maddening, very volatile. But that's the good and the bad. You have to take the good and the bad with a rookie quarterback. Also, we don't get to talk about the English Premier League a whole lot on this show, but this game's being played at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I don't know what the quality of the pitch is going to be like. We've seen issues in the past with games in London. It is an open air stadium. Weather is important here. If the weather's good and the pitch is, playing clean, the over is definitely in play because I think both defenses are very aggressive. The Falcons defense has been really poor this year, and I think you would expect the Jets to continue that all gas, no break mentality on offense. Zach Wilson, happy for you. Robert Saleh, I watched the post game, handing out the game balls in the locker room, very emotional. And now they get to go on the road and kind of have a team bonding moment in London. So I think taking 3.5 and weather dependent, I think the over here with 2 bad defenses certainly in play.
I think the Jets is the side to be on. I agree with what Jared said. You can't have the Falcons laying points.
No.
I mean, that loss to Washington was a disgrace. I thought the NFL made a rule a few years ago that if Cordero Patterson scores 3 touchdowns, including were all three of them receiving touchdowns, you have to automatically be the winner of the game. Like, how did they lose? They got 3 touchdowns from Cordero Patterson through the air. Yeah. That is bizarro world to me. This is a game, to be honest with you, I would take whoever's getting the points. Like, if the Jets were laying the 3, I would take the Falcons. Falcons laying the 3, I'm taking the Jets. Take the points.
It is the worst scoring offense against the worst scoring defense in terms of most points allowed per game in this one. And one other good nugget for you. Ready for this one? Rookie quarterbacks are 0-4 all time in London. In fact, only one rookie quarterback has even thrown a touchdown over there.
I'm willing to bet Zach throws a touchdown this week. I'm willing to make that bet.
Do you want to play the guessing game on who it is that threw the touchdown?
Oh, no.
Still plays.
There's so many rookies that have
still plays.
Dropping the bucket.
Was a second-round pick. If
you give me the team, I can probably get it.
Yeah, I think you could.
Probably.
He still plays.
Can I buy a vowel? Lifeline? Phone a friend?
It was Derek Carr.
Oh, yeah. Would have gotten with the Raiders then, probably. Yeah.
No, with the Jets.
Yeah.
With the Raiders, then probably. That's the only team he's played for. Yeah, probably.
That's it.
Okay.
Bingo.
Before we get to the line of the Tennessee-Jacksonville game, Ross, we have got to talk about the Urban Meyer situation. Does it carry over onto the field of play? Something like that.
I have no idea. Look, I think there's a chance it's like a rallying point. There's a chance they rally around it. I'm sure that's how he's going to spin it. Everybody's against us. Everybody's trying to make this a bigger deal. Like, let's show them what we're all about. I don't know, man. I mean,
but by the way, does that shit work or not?
Sometimes it does. Yeah. Sometimes I think it does. I think it depends on the situation. I mean, I was not on a team where the coach didn't come back on the plane and was videoed doing some untoward behavior. So I don't really know how to answer that one other than saying I don't think it's a non-factor. I think it's either something they rally around and play better or it goes the other way.
Yeah.
And guys start to check out on him and their preparation during the week, and the Jags start to play worse rather than better.
I've never been in an NFL locker room before as a player, so I can't speak to that. What I can speak is to the odds makers having the same uncertainty about this as Ross just kind of examined. Like we asked everyone this week about it. One of the odds makers joked and says, we'll have the quantitative research team try to get on the impact of viral videos this offseason. But it's just not something that you can quantify into a betting line. But I agree with Ross's statement is that it is a fork. It is a fork in the Jaguars season. They can play, and they played pretty well last week. I don't think the talent is not there. I mean, and I know Cincinnati kind of sleptwalked through the first half, but I think Trevor Lawrence on the road against a good defense showed you that he can throw. He made some really good throws in that game. And I think the Jaguars have the talent to win this game and win, several games throughout the season. But mentality, again, I can't speak to this. I've never been in the locker room. The mentality of how these guys fight for their head coach is, to me, the quantitative fork here. They can either be positive or negative. If it's negative, it could fall off a cliff. If it's positive, I wouldn't be surprised if the Jaguars were able to win some more games down the stretch because, again, the talent is there. They've got the number one pick. The DJ Chark injury matters. He's their best receiver. He's out. That's important, right? I think they just put him on IR this week. But from a mentality standpoint, unless you get inside the brains of all 53 guys in that locker room, very hard to quantify what that video will do to the team this week.
Well, we're all reading the same reports here. And, Urban Meyer had a big come to Jesus press conference on Wednesday where he said, I've met with the ownership multiple times. He had a radio show on Tuesday night where he said it's really incumbent on the team leaders. I don't quite get that. It sounds like he's pushing things off. But if you believe my former colleague at the NFL Network, Michael Silver, who came out with probably the most damning tweets, which is he has sources inside of that locker room. And I'll have to do my Michael Silver for you. But we believe that the players had very little respect for Urban Meyer when he came in. They have no respect for him now. And so every time I read a Silver tweet, I have to do that.
That is good, Chris.
It is.
That is good. Tremendous. You got to do it. Not today, but I want to hear an impression of me sometime. But that was a good
He's
Michael
done it.
Silver.
He did it a few weeks ago. I remember it. It was very funny.
Yeah, but he kind of shorted it. He didn't really go all in.
I did. But Michael Silver, yeah. But that's the point. But I cannot believe I was never a player like you, Jared. But I would never have so much spite in my heart for my boss that I would want to put out on tape a shitty performance because I still want to take care of my family and who I am on top of everything else, Ross.
Exactly correct. Yeah. However, I can tell you one time, like 2002, before the Eagles game in week 16, Jerry Jones met with Bill Parcells in a Teterboro airport. So walking into the game that night, it was like a morgue. Right. Everybody knew that Campbell was getting fired. Why that matters is because the next game we played at Washington and a bunch of guys skipped curfew. A bunch of guys went out the night before the game and skipped curfew. So not every guy thinks as logically as you do, Chris. Some of them are still, they're all young guys in their 20s that might just be like, I don't like this guy, and we stink anyway. And they don't always think with their own best interests.
Okay, so let's spend a minute or so on the line here, Jared. Yeah. Open at 7.5, at 7, and now it's down significantly. Significantly. Well, how do you read that?
Well, you read it as just the Titans' injuries is really taking its toll. I'm seeing now, and again, we're taping this Wednesday afternoon, I'm seeing almost 100% of the handle come in on Tennessee in this game. Nobody wants to bet Jacksonville. And that makes sense because of everything that's happening. But Tennessee's facing a lot of, attrition as well and adversity this week because they are, other than maybe Denver and maybe Philly now with the Lane Johnson thing, which was weird. I'm sure we'll get to that in a second. That we don't know what the status is of their two top receivers. Bud Dupree out. They took a couple of other knocks to their offensive linemen on Sunday that were in and out of the lineup. So the Titans' injuries are just a huge concern. And I'll be honest, if I had to bet this game right now, I'm not betting it, but if I had to, I would take the points with the Jags because I would be leaning that, first of all, that's where the line value is, obviously, because it's moved so much further down. But I think if I had to pick positive or negative for the Jags, I would say that they respond better than maybe the experts and the public thinks. The public tends to be wrong a lot when they're betting the NFL, and everybody's betting the Titans this week. And that, to me, would pause, to put some money on them.
Okay. Ross, any thoughts on this before we move on?
Not really. I don't have a good feel for it. I probably would still lay the points with the Titans, but they were not good last week. I haven't seen enough of an update on A.J. Brown or Julio Jones. And I don't like betting games where there's a huge unknown in my mind, right? So that's like a rookie quarterback in his first start, or maybe there's an injury at quarterback. You don't know who's going to start. I think this Jags situation is one of those where, I really don't know how they're going to react. It's a big unknown, which for me becomes a stay away game.
Yep.
And by the way, that's okay. Part of the reason we do this show is it doesn't mean you have to bet 16 games a week, right?
I would not recommend that.
Yeah,
I would not recommend doing that.
Please do not.
Do not do that.
Because you won't be able to afford the mobile device where you actually take our content. If you do that, it's not going to work in your favor. So there are some bets that our guys love, some plays they love, some they are lukewarm on, and some, like Ross just said, I have no feel.
Stay away. Stay away. Yeah. It's important to identify the stay away games.
Yeah. There's so many factors, not only the mentality of Jacksonville, but the injuries. The injuries to Tennessee is enough to keep me away from a game. if I don't have a good feel for the other side. You throw in the viral video stuff. I mean, good luck trying to cap the mindset of these guys this week.
All right, let's move on to what might be one of the better games this weekend. 3-1 Cleveland at 3-1 Chargers. We expect another Chargers road/home game this weekend because the Browns fans travel very well. What do we see here, Jared?
Pick them. The action's pretty split right now. Maybe slight edge to Cleveland, and maybe the line has moved slightly in the Chargers' favor, but not in a significant way. Great call by Ross last week. That was a Raiders home, even though they didn't win the game. That was a home game for the Raiders at SoFi Stadium. So that home field disadvantage, maybe not as much with Cleveland because it doesn't have the California, roots that Raiders team does, but certainly the home field line and how much it's shaded to the Chargers at home will definitely be something to look out for this year. Justin Herbert is absolutely fantastic. I'll be honest, though, when I watched the Baker Mayfield performance last week, I really was disappointed that they were not able to move it better against that Vikings defense, only scoring 14 points, and most of it came late. The defense played really well. Say what you want about Kirk Cousins, but the Browns should have scored more than 14 last week against a really bad Vikings defense. The Chargers defense is significantly better than the Vikings defense. And that would scare me if I'm going to back it with Cleveland this week at under a field goal.
So just to jump in here, this game is almost a stay away game from the standpoint of, I don't know what to do with Baker Mayfield. That might have been the worst game I've ever seen him play.
Really?
Now, the good news for the Browns, and if you're a Browns fan, is that they won on the road against a decent team when their quarterback played awful, like his worst game ever. I would expect him to bounce back, but there's a big enough sample size now of what he's like when he's with Odell Beckham Jr. It's just weird. Like he had an easy touchdown to Odell and he missed him. I mean, Tim Tebow would have made that throw. It's unbelievable. I don't know what happened to Baker Mayfield. I don't know if that shoulder that he separated or whatever is bothering him. That's why this is a stay away game for me. I don't know. I feel like I know what the Chargers are, but they're coming off a Monday night game.
Yeah.
Kind of emotional. They beat the Raiders. This is a tough game for me to get a feel on, primarily because I don't know what to expect from Baker. I think he's going to bounce back and play better. And as a result, I would lean to Cleveland and the 1.5.
So it's interesting. For people that don't know, I'm a huge Browns fan. And I watch every game very closely. The Odell point that you make is super interesting. I have to reserve judgment if I'm a gambler or just a fan on the Cleveland situation with Odell because they haven't had Baker, Jarvis, and Odell on the field together since that offense started taking off the second half of last season. And it's a little bit of the chicken and the egg theory. Did the offense take off because Odell wasn't there, or was it because they finally felt comfortable with Stefanski's offense? Two things about this most recent game in Minnesota. It was Stefanski's worst play calling since he came to Cleveland. I thought he was all over the place.
Yeah.
And Baker, the first 2 weeks of the year, nobody completed a higher percentage of his passes than Baker Mayfield in the NFL. The last 2 weeks, the only guy who's completed fewer or a lower percentage is Justin Fields. I have no idea what Baker is right now. And we always talk about how gritty he is and how he's got that boulder on his shoulder. Well,
you know what he's not? You know what he's not? He's not Justin Herbert.
No.
He's definitely not.
That's
Definitely
what he's not.
Great
He's
call.
not.
He could be the MVP of the league if they win 11 or 12 games and win the West. I mean, he.
By the way, who
legitimately
told
could
you
be
that
the
at the
MVP
beginning of the year? Who told you to take Justin? I think he was 20-1 at the beginning of the year.
That's why we watch, Chris.
Is that why? Not really.
For numbers like that.
You
Nuggets
live,
like that.
live for my little stats.
We love the Nuggets.
Let's move on to the Monday night game. Indianapolis Colts coming off their first win of the year. They are on the road against the Baltimore Ravens, who have won their last three. Very impressive last week, and I didn't mind them getting 100 yards on the ground in the last 30 seconds of the game either. I thought that was kind of fun. Lamar, by the way, remember we made a big deal about Patrick Mahomes and that great September streak he had coming into this year. And then he obviously lost in Baltimore. Well, Lamar's got one of his own in the month of October. He is unbeaten. He is 7-0 as a starter in the month of October. Ross, does that do anything for you?
No. What does do something for me is I think the Ravens are really pretty good. I mean, They're throwing the ball better than they ever have with Lamar. Hollywood Brown went and got it. They are deadly when they're throwing the ball like this. And I got to tell you, latest I'm seeing is that the Colts are getting 6.5. I'd be all over the Ravens. I think Carson Wentz is a sitting duck against Wink Martindale and that defense. Wentz holds on to the ball. Wentz tries to make plays. This is the wrong team to do that against. Baltimore's going to send guys at him. And I don't think the Colts had a good defensive performance against the Dolphins. The Ravens are not the Dolphins. No. I would lay the 6.5 here with the Ravens. I almost never do that, but if I was playing this game, that's what I would do.
Wink Martindale's an all-star name too. Great name. All name list. I think when you look at this Ravens team, we talk about the defense. I think they'll stop the run better than Miami did last week. Jay Taylor had over 100 yards, Jonathan Taylor, and a touchdown. I do not think Jonathan Taylor will get that kind of room against this Ravens defense this week. And on the offensive side, let's check on the statuses again. Taping this Wednesday, we don't know what the injury status will be. Ronnie Stanley, Bateman, and Boykin, all on the offensive side, might be healthy for Baltimore. I know Bateman was close last week. So you put Brown now with their first-round pick at wide receiver, Rashad Bateman, who, again, we don't know what he's going to look like or how many snaps he'll play, but they're getting healthier in key spots. And I just don't trust Carson Wentz on the road. This is a tremendous teaser spot for Baltimore, getting them down to basically a pick 'em. And I agree. If I were to play it on the spread, I'm going to play it in my teaser, but if I were to play it on the spread, I absolutely would lay it with the Ravens in this spot.
All right. And finally, because Ross Tucker is on the show, we have to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles, coming off another abysmal performance at home against the Kansas City Chiefs. They're at Carolina this week. They're getting right around a field goal. Ross, what do you got?
Well, first thing I would say, it was an abysmal defensive performance. It was actually a pretty good offensive performance, which is important.
But the defense is still part of the team, and so, they lost by almost 20.
So it's important to note that, though, because I like the Eagles getting the 3.5 against Carolina, but I love the over in this game, 44.5. The Eagles have given up over 40 points the last two games, and Jalen Hurts is coming off of probably his best game ever. I know Carolina defensively is better than the Chiefs, certainly, but they still just gave up 36 points to the Cowboys. And while I don't think the Carolina offense, especially with McCaffrey's status up in the air, is going to put up 40-some, I think Joe Brady is going to be able to, the offensive coordinator, going to be able to get Sam Darnold to put up at least 27 or so. I like the over. I'm surprised that the number is 44.5. You're telling me a 24-21 game, you hit the over? I mean, I like the Eagles getting 3.5 because I think it'll be a close game. I love the over 44.5.
If it drops to 44, I'll play the over because 44 is a very key total in the NFL. It's the second most landed on total in the last 20 years. And I agree that on paper, you would think Philly would be able to move it. They have moved it. They're very volatile, but they're an anomaly in my little stat nerd analytics because they move it really well. They're a top 5 team in net yards per play, but they're a negative team in net points per play. Translation, they move it. They stop other teams from moving it, but they've struggled with scoring and finishing drives and having scoring against them. So that's volatile. And when things are volatile, it's hard to depict which way the market will move, which way the game will flow. But they definitely can move the football, and they should get yards against Carolina, who looked a little susceptible, especially against the run last week. And I expect Sam Darnold to play well. He's played well in the first few weeks, and I think Philly's defense is certainly ripe for him to play well again with some really good weapons on the outside.
Yeah, with the exception of getting picked off on consecutive drives by Diggs, Sam Darnold has played exceptionally well. We will get to the Thursday nighter momentarily, but real quickly, let's each take a shot at the teaser situation. Jared, very quickly, give us a synopsis. First of all, 20 seconds, what the teaser's all about, and then give it to us, and then Ross, you follow.
Yeah, so moving the lines, usually we do a 6-point teaser, moving it in your favor, pairing it with another game, moving that one 6 points. You're laying about 20 cents of juice, and the goal is to get that through a key number and to a more comfortable point where you feel like the spread is not a lock, but more obviously likely of hitting. And we already talked about these games, so I'm not going to beat the handicap to death, but I think the Bills getting them through 7 to 9. If you can get 8.5, that's fine too. The Bills are better than the Chiefs on paper. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes, the great equalizer, but I think if Buffalo can move it, they will stay within the number in that spot. And then taking that Ravens game and moving it from 6.5 down to a half, basically a pick 'em. I don't see Carson Wentz coming into Baltimore in a primetime spot and beating the Ravens. And so we're taking Baltimore as the second leg of our teaser.
I like Minnesota, teased down to -1. I like Denver, teased up to 7.5. I like Baltimore, like Jared, teased down to -1. I like Seattle, teased up to 8.5 Thursday night. I know we'll get to that. And I like Washington, teased up to 8.5. And I did this last week, and it did not work out for me. But I always have a tough time deciding how to pair the teasers. So when I've got that many teaser legs I like, I do a round robin, right? So it's like Minnesota. I do all of them. Minnesota, Denver, Minnesota, Baltimore, Minnesota, Seattle, Minnesota, Washington. Denver, Baltimore, Denver, Seattle, Denver, Washington. Baltimore, Seattle, Baltimore, Washington. Seattle, Washington. 10 teasers.
Good luck.
How's your brain not explode?
It almost exploded saying all those because I wasn't breathing real well either as I was like saying them all. Wasn't good.
You could see his head start to bubble over back there.
There was definitely some vein popping out of there. It was breathe through your eyelids. You'll be okay. Yeah, nice. Let's get to the Thursday nighter. NFC West clash. Huge win for Seattle on the road last week at Levi Stadium against San Francisco. The Rams suffered their first loss of the year at home when Arizona came in and punched them right in the face. It opened at -1, has moved to -2.5 for the Rams. So they are a road favorite in Seattle. Not an easy place to play against Russell Wilson and the boys. Ross Tucker, what are you thinking?
Yeah, well, so I think it moved because of the loss to on Sunday to the Cardinals. The Rams losing and the Seattle Seahawks winning last week sort of changed the dynamic a little bit about it. Like Seattle had to beat the Niners. That was like almost a must-win game. And now I think the expectation is that, okay, Seattle got a second win. They got the win that they needed, so to speak, and that the Rams got a wake-up call that I kind of expected after, they had beat the Bucs. Everybody's patting them on the back. And I think that's why the line moved to the Rams -2.5. I still think it's a close competitive game. I teased the Seahawks up to 8.5, getting 8.5. I think it's a good game, but if I had to just go straight up with the spread, I would lay it with the Rams. I think the Rams are the better team. I think the Rams bounce back from the loss, a little bit of a wake-up call against Arizona. I think the Rams win it by a field goal or a touchdown, which is how I can reconcile having the Seahawks on the teaser leg up to 8.5.
Thursday nights are tough. Picking who's going to win these Thursday night games when it's a toss-up like this, really, really tough. I'm worried about the Rams defense, their rushing defense especially. They got absolutely torched by Arizona. But if you go back further, they got torched in week 1 by the Bears in Montgomery. So they've had some issues stopping the run, and now that's a trend. 4 weeks in, can LA figure out how to stop the run? I know this is not the Marshawn Lynch Seahawks ground and pound beast mode of teams past. They're a little more finesse now. But they are not afraid to run the football. Russell Wilson is dynamic on the edge, running the football when he needs to. And I'm a little worried about the Rams defense. And I would probably, if I were to bet this game from a spread perspective, I like Ross's teaser, getting Seattle through 3 and 7. And we just gave you a bunch of different teaser legs to pair it with this weekend. But I don't think I'd want to take just 2.5 with Seattle. I do think because of the Rams' defensive struggles, Russell Wilson will be in this game and the back door will be open. So I think the teaser leg is a smart way to play it.
All right, let's hit a few more quick hitting items on Thursday Night Football. Matt Stafford, should he be getting a little more love in the MVP category, Jared?
Sure. Because if the Rams do win that division, he is going to be the MVP. I think the quarterback, unless Tom Brady and they go 16 or 17-0 or some crazy thing or something like that.
I think that's not happening.
Or 16-1 or whatever it is. No, the Bucs haven't lost yet, have they? The Bucs lost?
They lost to the Rams.
That's right.
And I guarantee they won't go 17-0 or 16-0.
Yeah. So 16-1. If the Bucs go 16-1 and get the 1 seed, you can make a case for Brady. But I think the winner of that NFC West is going to be the winner of the MVP. I think that division is that tough that if it's Rams or Cardinals right now, those look to be the two teams. I would say Stafford should get a lot of love for sure.
Stafford, by the way, is plus 1,200, tied for the 7th in terms of the odds with Tom Brady. My opinion on MVP, if you've been an MVP, you have to do something 20% better than you've ever done it before. If, Matthew Stafford's had some great years, but now he's in a situation where everybody's paying attention to what he does every Sunday. So if he just keeps doing Matthew Stafford things and they win the division, that's something new. If Kyler Murray wins the division, then he's your guy. It's very, in my opinion, sometimes, and I don't love the idea, but it seems very formulaic in the NFL MVP voting.
It's a media-based award, so
I agree, and it's similar to like Coach of the Year award. There's absolutely a formula for Coach of the Year.
Right.
I'm trying to find out who the 6 guys are with better odds than Stafford and Brady now. I mean,
Mahomes,
Kyler Murray.
It's Murray, it's Allen, it's Herbert. Those are the 4 that are up there right now.
Huh.
Okay. Let's move on. Would you take the over or the under on the Seahawks 9.5 win total right now, Ross? Quickly.
Under. I would take the under. They got some issues. They got some challenges, and they're in a challenging division. I would go under the 9.5.
Agreed. They have 2 right now. That means they have to get to 10. Yeah, I don't see that.
By the way, I know you're going to ask about anytime touchdown. I wanted Dan Arnold to score a touchdown last
Oh, he came close. But we got Trevor Lawrence in last week.
He was getting the ball. They were down in the red zone. They were throwing. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be like Jared and Chris. How you like me now? But they didn't throw it to him when they got down there.
It was a good call that they were going to involve him, though. That was, because he went over his receiving yards prop. So that was a good bet on your part.
Yeah, it was really good. Okay, so give me we'll finish on an anytime touchdown. What do you got, Ross? We'll give you first pick on this one.
I mean, it's not great odds, but I'll go Henderson, Darrell Henderson. His usage is off the charts. After Sony Michel fumbled, they benched him. I mean, Henderson gets the ball a lot. He is the guy for the Rams. So I'll go Henderson. The other one that would be good? Robert Woods, because Robert Woods is upset that he's not getting the ball enough. So now it's like a squeaky wheel thing that McVay says we got to get him the ball more.
I like that. I always love the narratives there.
Hey, Darrell Henderson minus 115, Robert Woods plus 130 on that. Jared?
It's not bad. So shop around on these because I think the numbers are better where you shop. I got 4-1 on both of these guys, and they both fit the narrative of the Rams rushing defense struggling. But I'm hearing some negative things about Chris Carson this week. Neck injury, I think. Don't really know for sure. Maybe he'll play. Maybe he won't. Alex Collins did play last week, 10 for 44 and a touchdown. I got 4-1. I think that's a really good price for a guy that might get a lion's share of the carries this week. The other one, Russell Wilson, 4-1. I know again, shop the numbers, but to me, if he's in the red zone, he's always a threat to run. And I think the Rams defense has struggled to stop the edges this year, and they've really struggled against the run. So I would go with a couple of Seahawk legs to maybe find the end zone on Thursday night.
Russell Wilson did get a rushing touchdown last week, and if you do take Alex Collins at 4-1, unfortunately, you're laying 1-10 that he does the river dance afterward.
That's okay. That's a hard dance to do. It's really hard.
Which of the three of us has the best chance of pulling that off with some sort of fluidity?
I think it's you, Chris. I think it's
really?
You. Yeah. You seem like you have good flow about you.
Well, Ross, I know he bounced around, and sometimes he was a tackle, sometimes he was a guard, so he could be a little bit of a dancing bear on the outside.
Quick feet?
I am a dancing bear. I am light on my feet, and I am a good dancer, but I have really tight glutes, so I can't do that, like, kick thing they do.
Yeah, I couldn't do that either.
Would you miss a show if you tried it? Would you still be available?
I would still be available. I'd be sitting here with my glute on an ice pack. I'd be doing the show after I took a couple of a leave, and I'm sitting here like this with the ice pack on my strained glutes.
He would have trouble sneezing properly if that was the case, Chris.
Ross would be a total leaner. He would be doing the show like this. We'd be like, Ross, can you straighten up?
And then I would hurt my back as a result of that, actually.
I have some ice on my ass right now. I'm sorry. I'll get back to you momentarily. Quick reminder, check us out at our Pickswise YouTube channel. Leave a comment, hit the little thumbs up, plus hit the subscribe button because, Jared, I keep telling you and all your friends, when you hit subscribe, it doesn't mean that you're paying a subscription. It just means you're subscribing to our service so you can get all the information. Also, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Pickswise and check out the Pickswise app. It's available everywhere you want. It's very simple. Download it. That's it, man.
Fun show, guys.
Confident this week, Jared?
Fun show. Really good information. Great anecdotes. High fives all around for week 5. High five.
Yeah, high five. High five for high five. So for our gambling expert, Jared Smith, for our 7-year NFL offensive lineman and Joe Horn's former best friend, Ross Tucker, I am Chris Rose. We'll see you next time on Pickswise Playbook. Now go out and win some dough.